Nigeria's aviation sector has come of age nearly 100 years since the first flight landed in Maiduguri in the country's northeast in 1925. And in the past century, the sector has grown to occupy a significant place in Africa's aviation space. But with an ever-increasing market attracting scores of flights and thousands of passengers annually, experts say revenue from the sector can be significantly increased with improvement in infrastructure, and if the authorities pursue aggressive policy reforms, strategic planning, as well as critical partnerships, one of which is the single African air transport market, SAATM, formally launched in January.
It's ironic that when Nigeria was one of the biggest in Africa, we were one of the champions of it. We had AGC and the likes at the time when Yamoussoukro first the declaration and the accord was signed. But now that the single African air transport market has been signed, we are a bit apprehensive because we have seen that other areas, other people like Ethiopia from the east, Egypt, Air Morocco, and South African Airways, they've gotten government support, they've gotten funding, and so they're able to offer cheaper air travel, better service than we currently are offering. And so there is a bit of apprehension. But we shouldn't see it in that way. We should see it that Nigeria is one key market where domestic travel can grow faster than international travel.
I think Africa for too long has focused on the international market, and it hasn't considered how much business can be done between African nations. Intra-African travel is very expensive, it's very limited. Many people actually connect for their flights within Africa outside of the African continent. They go to Dubai or a similar Middle Eastern hub to fly within Africa. So I think the big opportunity is intra-African. That is now being stimulated with the launch this year in January of the single African air transport market in Addis Ababa, that I was fortunate enough to be at the African Union.
If you look at Africa as a whole, we are more open to foreign carriers. We're more open to non-African carriers than we are to our own sister carriers. I'm a big believer that our biggest trade partners are ourselves. And once we can start to learn that we can work with each other and actually trade with each other, we'll find that we will not be as dependent, as reliant on Western trade.
As an airline, we feel it creates more opportunities, job opportunities for the young ones, increased connectivity for operators, mobility, and also positively contribute to the growth in aviation in Africa.
Nigeria is one of the 23 African countries committed to the implementation of the SAATM. But can its refusal to sign the African Continental Free Trade Area deal and the absence of a vibrant national carrier be a bottleneck to implementing it?
We have bilateral air service agreements, over 70 of them, that most of them are not reciprocatory. As in, we cannot reciprocate that gesture. So you see the Gulf Airlines in their big might come in here after we sign the BASA agreement, and they take our stuff, capital flights. Nigeria does not have a national carrier as big to reciprocate to fly. For example, if Qatar Air flies here, it flies to Abuja, flies to Lagos, takes the market, out. We don't have the capacity to compete with them, to go to Qatar as well with a national carrier to enjoy that benefit of agreement.
You don't have to have a national carrier necessarily. My background is actually tourism development, and the way I look at an aircraft really is a glass box full of people. It doesn't matter what type of aircraft, it doesn't matter what logo is on the tail. At the end of the day, these people are coming into your country to spend money.
You don't need to have a national carrier to participate. The essence of having the single African air transport market would have been defeated if you are looking for an individual carrier from each nation, because then you are still talking about bilateral relationship. Now it's more or less like open skies. So if you have the certification to fly as an airline, you can fly across borders.
Although several African countries have criticized the initiative, fearing that the SAATM will lead to the domination of African skies by a few major airlines, the issue of security seems not to worry experts.
Let's be honest, to get on a plane today is not easy. You have to go through quite a lot of security to get on an aircraft. And so maybe I'm not understanding your question, but I don't see security issues. For me, it's to get to an airport to go through, especially in Africa, where we're like over the top. We don't have as much technology to assist us. It's manual checks, and it's quite tenuous to get through. So from a security standpoint, I don't see any major risk.
I am sure the concern will definitely look into this as we come into the execution, but we would say as an airline that the SAATM would rather positively contribute than its negative impact.
The single air transport market provides for full liberalization of intra-African air transport services in terms of market access, seeks to remove all restrictions on ownership, and postulates full liberalization and frequency of movement, tariffs, and capacity. It also provides eligibility criteria for African community carriers, safety and security standards, amongst others. The SAATM's successful implementation will undoubtedly ensure remarkable positive change for signatory countries, guaranteeing that they reap the full benefits of the initiative. African leaders must ensure that the resources, infrastructure, and capacity required to grow the aviation sector are made available. MC Lanredo, TVC News.